Hey there, welcome to Pop Culture Cupid.
I'm Alison, love coach, here to help you single people find your way back to love.
And I'm Michal, I'm a single life coach. I help singles embrace themselves and their singleness, as well as develop a healthy self relationship.
In this podcast, we will look at how pop culture impacts romance, dating, and your love life.
And each week we'll shoot another arrow through another pop culture delusion.
I thought we weren't going to do the whole cheesy thing.
And then burst into smithereens.
Oh my god, dude, that's so cringe!
Sorry, it's in the intro now.
If you make it through the chaos and you enjoy what you hear, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, and go to all the social media.
At Pop Culture Cupid on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Enjoy!
Hi.
Yeah. Hello.
Oh, it's so damn cold.
Yeah, here it's not that damn cold. Saying beforehand, it's a bit up and down here. Like suddenly it's not winter anymore. Like suddenly there's sun shining and but who knows?
No, that the problem with I don't know about problem, but the thing is with the city where I live in. Well, first of all, France is a country where we've got the 4 seasons, like we've got just the 4 climates each time. But the city where I live in is that the heat comes in and settles and then stays, and so once it's hot, it is just melting hot. And then it's the same with the cold. It grows from hot to cold, and like you've got a couple of weeks of spring because of the city and the walls, and then the cold sets in, and then it is just cold. It's impossible to heat up because of the architecture and things like that. So we're either very, very hot or very, very cold in the summer and winter times. We've got a good spring and a good fall, but
that sounds like
it's just, I mean, I personally just give up in winter. I just I wear hoodies and everything, and I get gloves and everything. I'm just like, I'm just preparing for the cold because it's insane. So it's so cold right now. I've got my huge tea,
and we're only in the beginning of winter.
I know we talked about questions from Google, and I thought that was It's just before I kind of logged off my computer and logged onto this, I saw this post from somebody who was saying, avoiding love for fear of being hurt is like avoiding living for fear of dying.
Yeah.
And he said it. I think I did an okay job translating it, but it was in French, and I was like, and this guy is. He's in my Facebook like friends, but I haven't spoken to him in years, and it's very surprising for me to see that type of profound like speech from him. But I thought that is a very good way of putting it, of just, it's as we've said, finding love is not it should not be your like main objective in life. But don't go avoiding it either, which is exactly what people accuse you of saying and that you don't say. And I thought I'd have that as an opener.
It's a good opener, especially since there's so many things in life that we don't do, or that we avoid, or that we miss out on because we're too scared of losing, of getting hurt, of falling, of failing. And there's a quote that says, I can't remember who says this, but it's pretty popular, that says that the surest way to fail is to give up.
Yeah. Completely true.
And and so if you live by that logic of not doing something because you're scared of getting hurt or losing it, then you're sort of missing out on life. And isn't that scarier, of living your life just numb of anything and bland without any spice or anything to it?
Exactly. people evolve because, you know, human beings in general are risk takers.
Yeah.
It's why, you know, it's up for debate to say that we're the most intelligent species, because having technology does not make us intelligent, but we're not here to talk about. But we are the most evolved in our technology, you know, and traveling and discovering the world. Like, we're just the most evolved, and that's that. And it's because human beings are the biggest risk takers, because, you know, the human beings are the ones that just got up and went to explore really further away, that, you know, went, you know, tried to float on water when they couldn't, and then fly and things like that. And so it comes, you know, and then so same for you, dear listener, you individual little self. If you don't take any risks, then you're not going to grow, and you're not going to go be discovering, you know, amazing new worlds. And so
you discover by trial and error.
Exactly. And I think some of these questions, I don't know how you came to get your list of questions, but I used Answer the Public, where basically I just use keywords and it's the most asked question.
I tried to use that and I couldn't figure it out. It's a bit complicated for me, but maybe I'm just not savvy as I thought. But I was looking up actually on Google and looking up at all the questions that came up first for different keywords.
Okay, do you wanna you do one, I do one, and see how we go?
Yeah, sure. Let's go. You start.
Okay, so how can I find love in my 40s? And
ooh,
so it said, so
I actually saw one like that about 30s.
So it's funny because the Answer the Public, they say which one is most Googled and like research in mainly Google, but also Yahoo, and I think three. And the biggest one is how to find love in your 40s. So I don't know the statistics, but I don't think that there are more single people in their 40s than in their 30s or in their 50s. I just think that what it translates to me is that people who are single in their 40s are more preoccupied about being single in their 40s rather than people in their 30s and people in their 50s.
Yeah.
And I'm not
because sorry?
I'm not, you know, I'm not going to go talk about what's different in your 40s and 30s and 50s, because my answer, and then you can answer, but my answer is it doesn't change. Like, you know, people who put that in your 40s is because they think that it's different. You know, it's probably different to when you're in your early 20s with no emotional baggage, but as soon as you've got emotional baggage, you know, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, like, we're all the same. We're all just out there looking for love. We've got different emotional baggage, but, you know, everybody's kind of looking for somebody their own age. So everybody's kind of, you know, gotten a bit older and things like that. So how to find love when you're in your 40s? I think I just want to address that in your 40s, that you need to not consider yourself as a single 40-year-old person. You're just a single person looking for love, and don't make a big deal out of being 40, because personally, the clients that I've had, you know, people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, and they are all the same. They are all the same. All just, you know, it's all the same stuff of going on Tinder, going on Bumble, going into bars, first, second, third date. Like, it is not exactly the same because each person is different, but the strategy is more or less the same. So my answer to that is take away that in your 40s, you are just single, and it's, you know, you will find love. Forget about your age. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, not a 40s expert, but I feel like it's just become, because 30 is like sort of the new 20, so now 40 is the new 30. So whereas we used to pressure 30-year-olds, I think now the majority of the pressure is on 40 years old.
Maybe.
Just a humble theory by yours truly, but yeah, I think you said it very well. There's not a real one right for it. Could be just as difficult to find the right person for you when you're 20.
Yeah.
And 40. I don't think an age has much to do with it. I think it's just a matter of mentality and putting yourself out there and understanding that age is not what's going to limit you. There's going to be someone in your age group no matter what age group you are. And when you want to find someone and you do it properly, then there's no reason why not.
I watched this film, I can't remember. It's Triple Alliance, or like this really cheesy film with Cameron Diaz and two other blonde actresses, and one of them is married to the guy, the other is the girlfriend, the other is the mistress, and anyway. And the wife is like, oh my God, my husband is cheating on me with two other women. I need to divorce him. And I've only ever been single in my 20s. And when you're in your 20s, everybody is single. But now I'm in my 50s and no one's single. And that's just wrong. Not everyone is single in their 20s, because we see a lot of people getting married at 22, 23, 24, probably too young. And they're just, and so, I think I mean, I don't have the statistics, but from what I see, the proportions are probably not exactly the same, but very similar.
Yeah, I mean, you see what you focus on and you see what you want to see at the end of the day. And just, I mean, when you're in your 20s, so many people date around, and it's never, I don't think it's ever like, you can't really say like people are more single in their 20s than they are in their 50s. It's not true. Especially these days, a lot of people are ready for their next phase. And some would say that it's even easier to find when you're in your 50s, because now you're more 50s or 40s or whatever it is, because now you're past that non bullshit phase. Like, you're not willing to take up with any bullshit. And so now you know what you want, you're willing to go for it, you're not willing to compromise, and you're not going to put up with any bullshit along the way. Whereas in your 20s, you're too caught up in all the games and whatever. You're going to say?
I was going to say, you are willing to compromise on certain things. And I know
for sure, that's always, you should always be able to.
You're not willing to compromise on your values, but you are willing to compromise on certain things that you're probably not the same when you're 20. And I
for sure.
I would agree with you that in your 40s, it's less dating around, and it's more like you've got a bit less dates, but like quicker to get serious. So all in all, it's the same.
Oh, yeah, because you know what you want already. You're established. You don't need to play the field. You understand the real priorities, like of what to put your focus on and what's not as significant as you would think when you're in your 20s. Like, even these days, I'm in my 30s, and there's certain things when I was in my 20s that it would be so important to me that I wouldn't be willing to compromise on. But when I'm in my 40s, now I'm in my 50s, now I'm in my 50s, now I'm in my 30s.
Where are you going with this?
Oh my God, what's happening to my brain today? Now that I'm in my 30s, there's certain things that I've realized it just really doesn't make a difference. And you just learn what the real important things in life are, and you know yourself better, and you know what you want from life and from yourself.
Yeah. 100%.
So
okay, so
should we move on?
So yeah, I was like, in conclusion, it'll be easier. Put yourself out there and call one of us to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I actually looked up in 3 different categories. I looked up for single life, for finding love, and for relationships. Which one should I start with?
Relationships?
Sorry?
Relationships? Just random.
Yeah, just random. Let's do that. What are good relationship rules? Yeah.
It's a good question.
Which is something, it is a good question. I didn't even think about that when I was looking up. And it was like one of the first questions that came up. And I think it is important to establish rules in a relationship, not only for yourself, to again know what you're willing to put up with, and what your red lines are, and what you're willing to compromise on and what not, but also within the relationships. Not to be like rules where you get punished if you don't abide by them, and it shouldn't be restricting to the point where you feel like you can't breathe. But you have some form of rules that help you communicate better, and that help you understand each other better, and that help you avoid miscommunication or just getting into all the wrong situations, into all the wrong arguments, and to help you choose your battles.
I think that's great. And I think it's worth mentioning, it's, you know, we're talking about romantic relationships, but it is also true for relationships with your friends and with your
Oh,
family,
for sure.
you know, and just setting rules. And for I don't do this, but I should have certain rules with my friends, but I definitely have rules with my mother of boundary setting. So that's one thing. I'm trying to think about rules with JT. And I don't think we used to do this thing where we would give it, like, we would give each other a grade of like 0 to 10,
Mm-hmm.
5 being like, no, 0 being I really do not care about this, 5 being I care about it but I trust you, and 10 being like, you do not do this, I will break up with you. And you know, cheating or something. And then, you know,
Yeah.
and so at the beginning we did it a lot, and we did it again this weekend. But so it didn't really, so the thing that we do is that I if we get close to an uncomfortable situation, one of us will say, this is, you know, a 6 out of 10, a 7 out of 10, you know, triggering. And
Yeah.
and we've never said, this is 10 out of 10, I'll break up with you. He may have said it once to me on something really, like, not controlling at all, and I won't go into detail, but I think that's a good way of setting, you know, of getting a good, like, just a good idea about where this other person is and how you can understand, because what's triggering for him is not triggering for me, and vice versa. So it was a good way for us to kind of just understand where we were, and, you know, what were this, you know, touchy subjects for the other.
Yeah. I was thinking about it, and I feel like in my relationship, we don't really call it like rules per se. Like, it's not something that we sat and established as rules that we have to abide by. It was more like, because my boyfriend and I have a lot of open I was going to say conversations and then communication. We conversations all the time. We talk about things as they come up, and I feel, first of all, I feel like that's one of the best ways to have a healthy relationship, is when you don't wait for things to pop up and become a problem or an issue, or for them to become to become an argument, or to be irritating, or to sweep under the rug. I feel you should talk about things as you go along. Just have like open communication, just discussions about different things that come up and how you feel, and some of your values, and it just comes up when you just allow it to be something that is talked about in a light and easy manner, and not only once it becomes an issue and then it's heavier and harder to solve. For example, I think I spoke about this before, but we recently had sort of an argument. I don't know what to call it. And I told him I don't want us to get to a point where we're scared to talk to each other, because what was it? We're like so scared of losing each other.
Yeah, that you're not going to bring up the hard topics.
Yeah, no, what was it? That oh, I lost my
Train
train of thought. Yeah, what was it? That oh, okay. Sorry about that. That I don't want to have to, every time we have an argument or a disagreement, I don't want to have to to be scared that this is what's gonna break us, or that this is something that is gonna make one of us want to break up. I don't want to have to worry about this every single time we have an argument. And so we need to trust each other that we're not going to let petty arguments and small things blow up in our faces.
Yeah.
if you understand what I mean. Like, we
Yeah.
have to have open communications even when we're angry, and we're not gonna just give up because we had an argument.
Yeah, that's that's a good rule to have, and I would add to that something about I can't remember the technique of it for some reason. It'll come back to me. But basically, it's when I'm upset with him or he's upset with me, we will do something where it's like a two-ended rule where if I'm upset with him, like let's say I don't know, he came home late, or like he arrived later than he was supposed to or something.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say you arrived late and I'm angry. I have to say I feel upset that our timing wasn't respected. I feel abandoned. I feel taken for granted. I feel taken for nothing, things like that. I'm upset. I like it when either I know that things are going to be delayed or pushed back, but I just like to be aware. And I don't use the word you because I'm not accusing him, because he even though it may be his fault, it's always kind of an attack. So that's the first side of that rule, of that kind of the way we talk. And the second side of that is that whilst I'm talking about my feelings, he cannot talk about his. Like, this is my moment, and so I will do my very best of not using the word you and not accusing him of anything. You did that, you did that, you did that. I just don't do that. And then he will receive it in a sense, okay, I hear you. And then when he needs to talk about his feelings, then we wait for a bit, a couple of hours or the day or whatever. And then we do the same in the other way around. Like, he'll express it, he won't be accusing me. And I can't really, react to his things, like it's his things. It's not always easy to do that. Usually it's something that, people in therapy do with, like, you've got the therapist who's the mediator and kind of brings everything back. But for the semi-heated arguments, like, you've got the arguments that are useless, and then you've got the big ones that it's difficult to manage. But the middle ones of that type of thing, that you can try doing that.
Yeah, we've sorry.
Just not accusing.
Yeah, we've had the same sort of conversation about when something happens that bothers you, or when you get insulted or you get hurt or whatever it is, there's a manner of which you can say things, because if you're just going to be accusatory, that's going to shut them off, and it's going to make them clam up and not be able to hear you and what you want to say, and it's going to make them feel attacked. So you need to know how to tell them what you're feeling, and to portray it in a way where it's not accusatory, and you shouldn't be your prerogative either. You should want to say it calmly, explain to them so they can understand you, and they shouldn't become all defensive. They should be open-minded and understand. And again, in many of these situations, you discover that there's a lot of things that you both did wrong in the situation. And yes, he may have done something that upset you, but you might have done something as well that triggered them.
Exactly.
Or you so it's very dynamic, and it's very important to know how to express yourself properly. It's important for them to know how to listen,
Yeah,
without being judgmental, without being defensive, and saying, I get it, it's fine, I understand, I did something that was harmful or hurtful or whatever it was, and to accept that, and to be able to learn from it and move forward and do better together. Like, at the end of the day, the in a relationship, you want to solve things. You don't want to be right. You don't want to win an argument. You want to solve it together in a productive manner where you can learn from it and do better in the future together. And we were talking about this also the other day, that again, we have a lot of these conversations, when he was saying that, what was it that he the times that he was scared to say something, because, or in past relationships, anytime he shared or expressed something, then she would make him feel bad for it, or she would make him feel guilty. And when you make someone feel guilty for sharing or expressing themselves, then you're the one with the issue and not them. When you try, even if they did something wrong, when you try to make them feel bad for it or shame them for it, then you're part of the problem here as well.
100% agree with that sentiment. You know, the world we live in is not black and white. And whenever I would have this type of conversation with less open-minded people who just, just different types of people, they would say, oh, but they would bring up these extreme circumstances of like, oh, what about Hitler, and what about this, and what about that, and what about and it's just like, you don't use these extreme examples. Don't use, same for trans people, abortion talk, of like things like that, and of just the people defending the arguments keep using these extreme circumstances, and that's not the right attitude. It's not the right, you need to be thinking about, there's a spectrum of colors, and it's not, it's not from left to right, but it's forward to front and up and down, like it's a 4D world, and it's just, where do we, position ourselves in each situation. And so, yes, in a situation where, people can't really express themselves, and the consequence of that is that they behave in a way where it's not amazing, but it's not of real consequence. So, it's a spectrum. So, you want to be thinking about, yes, they did this, but how big was the consequence? Not that big. Okay, so maybe you're part of the problem. So I completely agree with that sentiment. And it's, things that are not black and white. And I think, to come back to your question of what's a good rule in a relationship, is to actually talk about, as you do with your boyfriend, talk about these things all the time, because it's just so fine, the details and everything, it's so precise, like some little things, and so it all comes down to talking without judgment, like, and then if you feel triggered by something, by just talk, like, because talking is before actions. If you yourself feel triggered by something, then you want to be, thinking about why that's affecting you, and then just like question yourself. And I'm not saying that you're wrong for being triggered. I'm saying that those are your feelings. So you need to make those very clear for yourself before talking to them about it.
Yeah. And giving them the benefit of the doubt, and not reacting before you understand the situation. Because more often than not, we tend to straight away go into what's the opposite of defense?
Offense.
Offense, yeah. Well, you go into attacking mode before you actually hear them out, listen to what happened, and yeah.
Yeah, 100%, 110% agree with you.
Yeah. Should we move on to the next question?
Yeah. It's a different, like, well, we're changing kind of like the mood, but I had something called who found love, and it brought me back to something that a girl that I used to know had said, that she read this article that of this Harvard literary professor, whatever, was saying that love was a 20th century construction and it doesn't really exist, and blah blah blah. And I found that so annoying because she wasn't even saying 20th century, she was saying 21st century. Yeah, she was like well, 1990s and like romance, and her whole article, like this 2-page article, was talking about all of this. And I was like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, ever read. And I'm so disappointed that it's coming from a Harvard person, because you want to think that these people are the highest educated people. And they, you know,
Well, I've recently lost respect for Harvard and all of these
yes,
supposedly
semi,
I don't know, the best universities in the
yeah,
world. Apparently not.
exactly,
Apparently they're not.
because with this, I could come up, and I'm not particularly well versed in, you know, millennia of literature, but
Yeah.
off the top of my head, I can come up with Shakespeare, Victor Hugo, Moliere, Greek authors that they talk about love, like Helen of Troy and things like that. And it's just like, what are you on about? So the answer of who, so I just wanted to bring that one up, of just who found love. No, love has always existed. And certain psychologists will talk about how, you know, it's how do you call it, conditioning. You know, it
Yeah.
starts off with conditioning, and it's like, well, sure, whatever, but it is still, you know, love, whatever it is. If we think it's magical, hormonal, whatever, conditioning or whatever, because, you know, yes, it seems normal that, you know, these psychologists, you'll have some that they say, oh, look, it's fake because it's just conditioning, and others will be like, well, no, you learn to love the people that do nice things for you and make you feel good. Like, we'll call that conditioning, but that doesn't mean it's negative. Just as if you want your kids to behave well, then you will reward them, and you will, it doesn't have to be a bad word. Yes, it's conditioning. You learn to love the people that make you feel good and that remind you of something familiar, and that's that. So who found love? I mean, now I'm thinking, you know, who found love could have also just been the question, you know, a list of celebrities that were in love. But anyway, I wanted to just address that, of just, it is definitely not a like late 1990s construction. It is something that has been around for a long while, forever. It's just an emotion, just like any other. Just like fear is, that, you know, conditioning and all of this, you know. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think it's something that we can really measure or decide, or it's again, it's just it's a feeling, it's an emotion, it's a compatibility matter that's just very natural. I think it's part of being human.
Yeah.
It's also it's difficult for me to answer that question, because it's just it's like asking what is love, or
Yes, so
is it,
abstract.
it's yeah, it's very hard to answer that. There's no way of really saying like when and how and who started it, and who actually felt love and who didn't, and what's made up and what's wishful thinking. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So yeah, so I just stop believing these bitter people, of just that if they choose to be single and they choose to, you know, that's fine. That's fine. But if they're saying that these positive things are just a social construct and we should give up, then just stop it.
Yeah.
You know,
People are using it as an excuse because they couldn't find love,
yeah,
or they get love and they've had a difficult time to find love. So they're like, then love must not be real.
yeah, exactly. Love must
Um,
be the problem, not myself.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Recently happening a lot with what do they call themselves with the Gen Z. Oh my God. Oh my God. That when they discover that something isn't the truth they thought they were, so they just decide that that's the blame. It can't be possibly true. So
Yeah. People have trouble kind of,
they can't accept the truth, and they feel more comfortable with their lie, So instead of accepting that it's the truth and they've been lying to themselves, then they're just going to say the truth is the lie.
Yeah. And because the world is just like so ever changing, like what was true for, like, my parents told me to study and go to school and do this and do that, and because when they were my age, that's just how things worked. It was, you know, for the majority of people, if you went to school and got a master's degree, you would just get a good job with good money. But it's just not true anymore. I mean, it's true for some, but today it's just not true anymore. And the more we go, the more, like, the faster things are changing. So, you know, generations used to be 15 years, and then it used to be 10 years, and now 2 generations is something like, it's 4 or 5 years between 2 generations, because they calculate it in a, like, you know, how savvy will they be with technology, and how are things working for them. And it's just because, so it's moving so fast that before, you know, they'd have these long periods of time because this is going to be the same for everyone, and actually it's not the case anymore. So it's accepting all of these things. Anyway,
We're digressing.
We're digressing it as we do. But yeah, so just
as we do.
Love is not a social construct. It's an emotion. It's a human emotion. It's a lot of animals feel that emotion. And if you believe that your dog loves you and you don't think that has got anything to do with conditioning, you're wrong. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't make it any less true that they love you and you love them. Your turn.
My turn. Let's move on. Maybe a question about being single.
Yeah.
Which I always love. How do I accept that I am single? Which is a difficult thing for us, especially these days. Speaking of love, it's very difficult for us to accept the fact that we're, because we often see it as the end of the world. And it's hard for us. Well, it really depends on the situation. It could be difficult for us if we've always been in relationships and suddenly now we're single and it's hard for us to accept the new status. Or we've only ever been single and we just can't, we can't accept it. It just annoys us that we can't seem to find someone. And I think that more often than not accepting our singlehood is what prevents us from finding love, and what is making us actually be miserable. So instead of fighting it and trying to force something to happen, or just trying to control what we can't control, is just making the most of it and just deciding to go with it instead of trying to fight it. Just go with the flow and find the ways to fill up your single life that helps you have fun with yourself and make your dreams come true. That, because again, there's more to life than just having a relationship and just falling in love.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't know that I like that sentence. How do I accept that I am single? Like,
yeah,
it's kind of like, how do I accept that I lost my job, and how do I accept that I'm a size 40 instead of a size 38, or like L instead of M, or whatever. Like, these things are not something that are just, I actually forget about the clothes size, because some people it is genetic, but lost your job, or how do I accept this, or when these situations are not situations that you are condemned to stay in the rest of your life. You know, you want to accept something that you can't change. So for example, you know, how do I accept that my boyfriend never puts his socks away, or that, how do I accept the fact that my husband cheated on me, or how do I accept the fact that my friend and I will never agree on this, or whatever. Like, these are things that are on, you know, probably never going to change. And so that's a good thing to just, you know, how do you accept it? But single, you know, it's not something that you should have to accept in the sense that it is not this big thing that will change your life. How do I accept my breakup? How do I accept my divorce? Yes, those things are final. How do you move on from that? Those things are final. But how do I accept that I'm single? Like, this is a situation that may change, and for it to change, you need to not make a big deal out of it. So if you need to make a big deal out of being single, then you're probably going to stay single for a while. Whereas if you just do what you said, which is just live your life, and think about how you want your life to look like, and how you want to be spending your time and things like that. And how do I accept that I lost my leg? How do I accept that I
Yeah.
these things that you cannot change? Yes, how do I accept them? But other things of how do I accept being single, or how do I accept, I don't know, many things that can change, then it's that you're not asking yourself the right question.
Yeah, you're focusing on the wrong things
Exactly.
instead of, because again, it's very dynamic. Your status changes, and it's not something that's going to be forever.
Yeah.
And instead of just focusing on what you can control right now and what you can do at the moment, you become obsessed over being single. And when you're just constantly asking yourself, how do I accept this, as if it's the end of the world,
Yeah.
that is what makes you get stuck in a rut, and it makes you it makes you stuck in the worst type of being single, if that makes sense, instead of making your single life be incredible, which it can be.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% agree with that. It's some of the questions that came up for when I was looking around love was how to find love after a divorce, how to find love after a breakup. Well, then that's not the right way of looking at it. How to live after a breakup, how to live after a divorce, these big events. I was like, yeah, I would agree that. But if you want to find love after something that you seemingly have not accepted because it's still part of your thought process, then it's how to learn how to run before walking. Well, no, you need to learn to walk, so get over this big event, and then we'll talk about finding love.
Yeah.
So how to accept that I'm single? Well, stop thinking about the fact that you're single and start thinking about how you want your life to look like. And yeah, I guess that's my 2 cents.
And also understand that it's not the end of the world, and it's not what determines your value. It doesn't make you better or worse than anyone else, and it doesn't make you more pathetic or sad or lonely. It doesn't make you worse than someone that's in a relationship. It's just what it is. It's just your status. It's not, it's not making a big deal out of it, and not letting anyone else make a big deal out of it. And if someone does, and that's their problem, and you just do you and move on.
Yeah, exactly.
So should we do one more, or how are we on timing?
I think we're around 40 minutes. Shall we do one more each?
Yeah, let's do one more.
I have a lot of I had a lot of like percentages, like what percentage compatibility, because I looked at like French words and English words, and in France we've got this show which is Married at First Sight, basically. So people go through this process of and then these professional psychologists, whatever, will determine a percentage of compatibility. And then they say, oh, you're 78% compatible with this person, so we picked you guys to be married, and that. And so you've got a bunch of percentage questions on the English and French side. And stop, like, what percentage to find love, or what percentage, whatever, like, how compatible are people? And it's like, you need to take numbers out of it, because what does that even mean? Honestly, I love Married at First Sight for all the same reasons that I love Love Is Blind. You know, it's just these, it's good, bad television, you know. But don't let those things influence you like that. Those numbers do not mean anything, because imagine like you're 99% with compatible with someone on all fronts. You eat the same, think the same, you know, do every, like, see your family, everything, like you'll travel. But the 1%, he's a murderer. Like, he's a murderer. So you're,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean anything. And so I'm doing what I said not to do, which is to go to the extremes. But you know, it doesn't mean anything. It's so complicated because, you know, one person will say, you know, for example, I'm not a fan of, I'll like a surprise in the sense that here are flowers, or here's some chocolate or whatever. Like, I like these types of surprises. I'm a bit materialistic sometimes, but I don't like surprise events. Like, I would not enjoy, you know, my boyfriend picking me up and saying we're going out to a fancy restaurant. Like, I want to know about it, shower, blah blah blah. I want to get ready for it. And a friend of mine loves those things. So what do we say? I love surprises, but not that type of surprise. And somebody else, you know, it's so complicated. Just take numbers out of it. You know, what percentage am I compatible with my boyfriend? What percentage, you know, to find love, things like that. How find love percentage or whatever. Just take the numbers out. See how this person makes you feel, and if they fit your core values, the rest can change.
Yeah, it's not something of the formula or anything like that. And it's not something that I don't think that can be scientifically proven, or there's no one right way that we can show how people are compatible or not compatible. It's just not something that is one track. Like, there's so many different ways to fall in love. There's so many different ways to be compatible with another person, and we can find one person who is very different from us, but we still fall in love with them and we still somehow make it work. Or there can be someone else that's like exactly like us, and we can not fall in love with them at all, because I don't know, like there could be someone who we have the same interests, we have the same mindset, we have the same
Because that
train
person
of
is your
thought.
family member. You know, it could be
Yeah.
it could be anything. You know, forget about, just take numbers out of it.
It's just not a matter of numbers and statistics, and you can't say, oh, this person is most compatible for you because you both like Jennifer Aniston or whatever it is.
Exactly.
It's just not something that you can calculate. And it's just not, I mean, it could be that with one person, I like them for being spontaneous, and could be with another person, I'll hate that they're spontaneous.
Yeah.
It's very dynamic.
Exactly. I mean, I was talking about it with friends of JT yesterday, and about Oedipus complex and things like that. And honestly, if I describe everything that I love about JT,
Mm-hmm.
it resembles my dad and my brother a lot. Like,
Yeah.
frighteningly a lot. But and we had a, you know, it was a light-hearted conversation. But I have a good relationship with my dad and a great relationship with both my brothers, but one is like very similar to my dad. Anyway, and it would, like, I'm thinking about it now because of the conversation, but it would never ever cross my mind to, it's like my fantasize around my, oh, you just can't even say it. So yeah, so there are many reasons why, you know, it's just so many different things that make a relationship. So just take numbers out of it. Just, you know, it's so complicated. Take numbers out of it. Forget about percentage.
Yeah, that's something that just annoys me with Love at First Sight. We also have it here in Israel. We have our own version of it. Stopped watching it a long time ago. because I don't know, I feel like it's they try to make it in a way that just doesn't make sense to
Yeah,
me.
it's not natural.
It just doesn't feel, yeah, because they're counting too much on compatibility. It's not even as if, you know, they're it just no, sorry, I'm not making any sense anymore, but no, it just doesn't, I don't
Doesn't work. Last question.
know. Yeah, last question. I have a good one. Oh,
Go on.
here we are. How to get someone to love you? Which at the end of the day, no matter how much we want to try to get someone to love us, I don't think there is a way to get someone to love you. When you have to make someone fall in love with you, you have to force it to happen, then it's just not it.
Yeah.
I remember there's a lot of like love gurus and a lot of people where I've actually, you know, when I was infatuated or when I had a crush on someone, when I looked up how do I get them to like me too. And so they have all this ways to talk to them, and different instructions that they give you, and different like messages that you should send them, and how you should react to them, and how you should tease them, and how you should flirt with them. And that's just something that doesn't work in my opinion. I don't think if you have to stop playing games like so, then it's just not it. With the right person, it will just happen. You'll just have that connection with them as you get to know each other.
I it's funny if I that type of I think especially in my line of work where I help people on dates, like I will sprinkle some like, you know, maybe you want to do it like that and maybe you want to say it like this, but it will just be sprinkles of just, you know,
Yeah.
I'll help you avoid faux pas. But I have this friend, this dear friend of mine who had a huge crush on me a million years ago. He's married, living in Holland right now. I mean, he's anyway. And so this was a 15 years ago. I mean, and so we've been, you know, we've had a couple of big arguments, but we've been close friends, you know, for you know, for 15 years. And recently, maybe a couple of years ago, he would have said, you know, you and I would have been so compatible if you had just gotten over certain things about myself. How, you know, how could I, you know, he was frustrated about he never was able to get me to fall in love with him. It's right in the sense that there are certain things that we were very and still are quite compatible on, but there are these things where we were just not. And one of the main examples is that I want kids and he doesn't. And he enjoys these things, you know, and he enjoys, you know, these really fantasy world things that I just, it's not that I hate them, it's just I'm just not into that thing. And I enjoy things that he just is not into either, and it clashes with each other. And so with that in mind, you know, he could have forced his way into my life and maybe I would have gone on dates with him, but it would have just gotten to a point where I want kids and you don't, and so it would just end. So, you know, if you need to be forcing yourself into someone's life, like forcing, then you need to accept that that's just not the right person for you.
Yeah. It either works or it doesn't. They either fall in love with you or they don't. And you shouldn't have to work hard for them to fall in love. Certainly to put on a mask or pretend to be someone that you're not. You shouldn't have to pretend to be cooler than you are for them to fall in love with you. You shouldn't have to constantly worry about saying the right thing or saying the wrong thing, or finding ways to know your certain values. You don't have to pretend to be something that you're not, and you don't have to exaggerate the person that you are for them to fall in love with you. If it's meant to be, and if they fall in love with you, then they'll fall in love with you for being you, for being true to yourself, for just being natural. And if they don't, then it's just not it. It's not compatible, and that's okay. And the more we try to get someone to fall in love with us and focus on the wrong person, it just keeps us further away from the right people for us. And we just lose sight of ourselves, and we pretend to be someone that we're not, and we're just getting further and further away from meeting the right people because we're too focused on someone that isn't right for us.
If I had to say, well, you know, give some sort of an answer without saying, you know, accept the situation, I'm thinking about the film Hitch. And so what he does, and I think that's the key, is just he helps his clients to, Will Smith helps the other guy get in front of this woman, like, you know, put yourself in a situation where she knows that you exist, and then be yourself. And so I would try, and it works, and I would translate that to, if they know that you exist and are not interested, then accept that they're not the one for you. However, if they don't know that you exist, or they're, you know, as in my friend and I, we were very close friends, and, you know, and so it was never going to happen. But somebody who's kind of, you know, in the background, we play in the same club or whatever, it's just we see each other without really seeing each other, then the tip to that is just make sure that this person knows that you exist, like actively, you know, remembers you and knows your name, and you go up to them and put yourself in a situation where you will be interacting with this person more often, but not in an uncomfortable way. The only thing that's uncomfortable is kind of just pushing your own boundaries of just like, okay, I'm going to be a bit more out there, and I'm going to make sure that they notice me. So if it's at the gym, go ask if you can, you know, split sets, or if it's at a party, go offer them a drink, or just like make sure you come into their consciousness.
Yeah, it's important to put yourself out there and to show that you're interested in someone without having to force yourself on them. And even in the film, I think in Stitch, is that
Hitch.
what it's called? Hitch, sorry, not Stitch. I don't know what's happening with my brain today, but even that film, when he I forgot the name of the actor, but the guy who Will Smith is helping,
Yeah.
even when he suddenly pretends to be like cool macho man that he isn't, then she sort of loses interest in him.
Because people
And
sense it when it's not natural.
yeah, when it's not natural, and a lot of times they fall in love with you know, being your genuine bubbly or bumbling
Weird.
self, or with awkwardness or whatever it is. And it just has to, again, it has to be natural. Yes, some people need more help and more support, and need someone to help them through the process. But you can't force it to happen. And it won't happen if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't put yourself in a situation to get to know someone, and for them to get to know you and fall in love with you.
Yeah. Good.
So, yeah.
Good way to end today's podcast.
Yeah.
Tell us what you thought. Ask us your questions. We must put something up on Instagram and just get people to ask us.
Yeah, ask us the questions that you have about falling in love and finding love and relationships and single life, and we'd be more than happy to respond.
All of that. Pop Culture Cupid on all of the social media platforms.
Come join us and let us know what you thought of our answers of today's questions.
Bye.
Bye-bye.